There's a thin air vent in our laundry room. One of those old metal ones builders install as an afterthought. I swear I've never heard a sound come through it in the 9 years we've lived here. Not a whisper. Not a draft. Nothing. Until last Tuesday. I wasn't snooping. I wasn't creeping around like some jealous detective. I was literally sitting on the floor, fighting with a stupid dryer sheet that had melted onto the inside of the drum. I was mumbling to myself, whining. Yeah, I'm good at that. About how nothing in this house ever works. Not even the appliances, not even me half the time. Then it happened. A voice drifted down through the vent above my head. Her voice. My wife, Mira. Clear. Unfiltered. Like she was standing right behind me. And she said it so casually, like she was ordering lunch. No, I'd never choose him again. Not in a million years. My whole body went numb. I didn't even drop the dryer sheet. I just froze with it pinched between my fingers like I'd been turned to stone. Her friend, Eloise, judging by the nasal laugh that followed, asked, "Why not? He worships you." And Mira responded with a sigh I'd never heard before. A tired, disappointed sigh. That's the problem. He loves me more than I can ever love him. It feels suffocating. If I had a do-over, I'd pick someone stronger. Someone who doesn't fold under pressure. Someone who isn't so breakable. Breakable. She said it like it was a flaw. Like it was disgusting. I felt my throat tighten, like her hand had reached down through the vent and squeezed it. I wasn't supposed to hear that. I wasn't supposed to know that she saw me as something fragile, disposable, safe to neglect because I wouldn't dare leave. I let out this pathetic little whimper, like a kicked dog, and instantly slapped my hand over my mouth. I didn't want her to hear me hearing her. I didn't want to ruin her perfect afternoon of planning a life I apparently wasn't strong enough to belong in. She kept talking, every sentence worse than the last, about how she stayed because it was easier than starting over, about how she missed excitement, about how she wanted someone bigger than life, not gentle and anxious like Ellery. Gentle and anxious. Great. That's me. A golden retriever with taxes. I sat there on the cold tile floor for I don't know how long, listening to the life I thought I had crumble through a cheap aluminum vent. When Mira hung up and walked downstairs, I scrambled out of the laundry room, so fast I nearly fell. I didn't want her to see me. I didn't trust myself not to beg, or crack, or ask her why she didn't choose me anymore. I spent the rest of the day pretending everything was normal, helped her chop vegetables, nodded when she talked about work, kissed her shoulder when she walked past me. But something had changed. And the worst part? She had no idea the quiet, breakable husband she didn't want anymore had already started quietly breaking away. The night after I heard her say she'd never choose me again, I made her favorite dinner. Not out of love. Not out of some desperate attempt to win her back. I did it because I wanted to watch her lie to my face while I served her exactly what she used to ask for when things were good. Back when she'd lean over the kitchen counter and steal a bite from the pan just to tease me. Back when I mattered. I cooked garlic lemon chicken with roasted thyme potatoes and asparagus. I lit candles, poured her favorite Cabernet, set the table like it was our anniversary. Mira walked in from work, heels in one hand, purse in the other, and froze for a second. I saw the flicker of surprise, then confusion, then that fake smile she's been perfecting for years. "What's the occasion?" she asked, setting her things down. "Just felt like doing something nice," I said with a shrug, keeping my tone light, like I hadn't been dying inside since the moment I heard her call me suffocating. She sat across from me, all polite and sweet, complimented the food, asked me about my day. And the whole time, I kept imagining the things she'd said through that stupid vent. I couldn't stop picturing her hand twirling the wine glass while she told Eloise I was breakable. I couldn't stop seeing the alternate version of her, the one who was already planning her exit strategy, if not physically, then emotionally. Halfway through dinner, she looked at me with this soft expression, the kind she used to give me when she meant it. "You okay?" she asked, tilting her head. I nodded and smiled. "Yeah, just tired. Long week." And then she said something that chilled me to my core. "You always try so hard to make everything perfect." She said it with no malice. But there was no warmth, either. Just observation. Like she was commenting on a painting she'd seen 1,000 times and no longer felt anything for. It hit me harder than if she'd slapped me. Because I do try too hard. And she'd stopped noticing years ago. Later that night, after she fell asleep on the couch watching a documentary she'd picked but clearly didn't care about, I sat alone at the dinner table. 2 empty wine glasses. Her half-eaten chicken. The candle flickering like it was trying to breathe. And that's when I knew I wasn't staying. Not out of spite. Not even out of pain. But because I was done begging for scraps in a house I helped build. A house where I now felt like a stranger in my own skin. But I wasn't going to leave in anger. No, I had something else in mind. Something quiet. Something final. And she wouldn't even know it was happening until I was already gone. The next morning, she kissed me on the cheek without looking up from her phone. I stood in the hallway holding her coffee, 2 sugars, oat milk, exactly the way she liked it. And she said, "Thanks, babe," with all the enthusiasm of someone talking to a delivery guy. Then she grabbed her keys, spun around, and walked out the door, completely unaware that I was falling apart in slow motion. Once the door closed, I went straight to the hallway closet. Behind the old winter coats, wedged between a box of burned-out Christmas lights and some junk from her yoga phase, was a battered notebook I hadn't touched in 3 years. It started as a way to track expenses. Then it became something else. Something sad. Something obsessive. Inside were pages of things I never said out loud. I flipped through them with trembling fingers. Old entries scrawled in angry, uncertain ink. She forgot our anniversary dinner. Said work came up. She told me to cancel my parents' visit because she needed space. Laughed at my promotion. Said the titles sounded made up. Page after page of moments that didn't seem big at the time. But together, they told a different story. One note stood out. 5 years ago, I had written, "If she ever says out loud that she regrets marrying me, I'll leave. No fight. No begging. Just leave." I read that sentence at least 10 times, tracing the pen strokes like they were part of a sacred text. That was before the vent. Before I'd heard her say she'd never choose me again. Before I realized the regret had been dripping from her voice for years. I just refused to hear it. I closed the notebook and took a deep breath. Then I opened my laptop and started putting things in motion. Quiet things. Digital things. I checked the lease. My name was the only one on it. I double-checked my private savings account. Small, but untouched. Then I did something that felt more surreal than anything else. I started applying for jobs in cities she'd never want to live in. That afternoon, I told her I had to work late. She didn't even question it. I stayed out, sitting in my car 2 blocks from the house, watching the porch lights click on. At 8:47 p.m., another car pulled into our driveway. I squinted. Blackouty. Tinted windows. Mira walked out in a hoodie and leggings, like she wasn't trying to look good, but knew she looked good anyway, and got in the passenger seat. No hesitation. No looking around. Just gone. She didn't come home until after midnight. I was already in bed, lights off, playing dead. She slipped under the covers like nothing happened. But I wasn't angry. I wasn't surprised. Because I already knew what I had to do. And this was just confirmation. She'd made her choice. Now it was my turn. The first thing I moved was my passport. I took it out of the drawer where we kept all our important stuff. Birth certificates, mortgage paperwork, her old college transcripts she swore she'd frame one day, and slid it into the side pocket of my gym bag. She didn't notice. Or if she did, she never said a word. The second thing I moved was the framed picture of us from our trip to Big Sur. It used to sit on my desk. I replaced it with a stack of unopened mail. She walked past it 3 times, even lit a candle beside it, and never realized it was gone. That's how I knew it would work. I wasn't just leaving. I was erasing myself. I started small. 1 sock drawer at a time. 1 shaving cream canister. I let the bathroom get messy. Her stuff everywhere. So she wouldn't notice mine disappearing. I backed up everything from my laptop to a private drive, wiped the hard drive clean, and told her it crashed. She rolled her eyes and said I should stop using discount tech. Each day, I moved a little more of me out of that house. And she kept getting home later. She started doing this thing where she'd hum in the kitchen while she texted. She never used to hum. Not even when she was happy. But now, it was like a nervous tell. Like her body was betraying her before her mouth could. One night, she left her phone face up on the nightstand while she showered. I didn't want to look. I really didn't. But the screen lit up, and curiosity overpowered dignity. It was a name I hadn't seen before, Dean Wineglass, followed by a message that said, "Can't stop thinking about what you said. If you're really serious, I'll wait." My blood went cold. Not out of jealousy, but because that single message confirmed everything I had been piecing together. This wasn't some midlife flirtation or attention-seeking spiral. She was laying groundwork. Not just for cheating. For replacing me. I wanted to confront her. God, I wanted to shout and cry and ask her why. Why string me along? Why hum in my kitchen like I didn't exist? Why say you wouldn't pick me again and still wear the ring I put on your finger? But I didn't. Because I was too busy making sure she'd never get the chance to apologize later. The next day, while she was at work, I called my boss and cashed in every vacation hour I'd built up over 6 years. I emailed HR and told them I'd be working remotely for the next month. They didn't ask questions. I was always the reliable one. By Friday, my bank account was liquid. My name was off 2 of our shared bills. I had a storage unit across town and a lease signed in a city 4 states away. She still didn't notice a thing. And maybe that was the cruelest part. You spend years loving someone so carefully, so loyally, so completely. And when you start disappearing piece by piece, they don't even blink. The night everything tilted was a Wednesday. Ordinary, bland, forgettable. The kind of night where nothing should happen. But that's exactly why it did. Mira came home later than usual, smelling faintly of red wine, and some cologne that definitely wasn't mine. I was sitting on the couch pretending to watch a documentary, but really, I was studying her every movement like a scientist watching the last stages of an experiment. She tossed her purse on the chair, kicked off her shoes, and walked toward me with this distracted half-smile. Sorry I'm late again. Meetings ran long. Meetings. Right. The same meetings that magically aligned with text messages from a man who signed his name with a wine glass emoji. I nodded and pretended not to care. I had become very good at pretending. But here's what she didn't know. That morning, before she left for work, I had removed the set of spare house keys from their hook. Just one small change in the pattern of her perfect little world. And she noticed. Did you move the keys? She asked casually while opening the fridge. I shrugged. Probably misplaced. My voice didn't even shake, which surprised me. Usually I sound like a wet paper bag when I lie. She stared at the empty hook for a long moment, longer than made sense, like something about it unsettled her in a way she couldn't explain. Good. She should feel unsettled. Because that missing key was the first real sign that her breakable husband wasn't as predictable as she thought. After dinner, leftovers she barely touched, she went upstairs to shower. I stayed downstairs reviewing the last details of my exit plan. My duffel bag was already in the trunk of my car. My documents, savings, and spare clothes were in the storage unit. The only things left in the house with my name on them were the things she never cared about anyway. And then the moment came. She stepped out of the shower, hair wrapped in a towel, and called my name. Not casually, not lazily, urgently. Ellery. I didn't answer. I just listened. Her footsteps moved through the bedroom, then the hallway, then down the stairs. She looked around like she expected me to appear from a shadow. You home? Her voice was softer, a little uncertain. Maybe, just maybe, for the first time in years, she wondered where I was. I let her panic for a full minute before stepping out from the kitchen doorway. I'm here, I said quietly. She exhaled, hand over her chest. God, you scared me. I thought you left without saying anything. And that right there, was the exact moment I felt something click inside me. She felt it. The absence. The silence. The possibility that I could vanish. And the fear in her voice? It didn't sound like fear of losing me. It sounded like fear of losing control. I smiled at her, a small, tired, painfully polite smile. I wouldn't just disappear, I said. But the truth was sitting in my pocket, vibrating every few minutes. Confirmations from the moving company, the new landlord, and the bank. Everything was set. Everything was waiting. And the countdown had already started. She thought I was scared of being alone. She had no idea how much scarier it was for her when I stopped being the man she could predict. Soon, she would learn just how silently a breakable man can break free. It was early Saturday morning when I finally walked out, and I did it the same way I'd been disappearing for weeks, quietly, methodically, invisibly. She was still asleep upstairs, her phone screen dimly lit beside her, one leg tangled in the sheets like always. I stared at her for a moment. Not with anger, not even sadness, just stillness. The kind of stillness that comes right before a storm breaks open. There were no suitcases by the door, no slammed drawers, no dramatic last words. Just one thing. The wedding ring she stopped wearing months ago. I'd kept mine in my pocket for weeks, waiting for the right moment. And now? Now it sat alone on the kitchen counter, next to a sticky note that said nothing. Not even goodbye. Just blank yellow silence. That was all she was getting from me. I drove to the storage unit first. Everything was ready. The boxes, the sealed bags, the labeled bins with my handwriting. It felt like someone else had packed them. Like I'd already died and left behind only my inventory. Then I went to the apartment I'd leased under a different last name. Tiny place. Cheap carpet. Cracked tiles in the kitchen. But it was mine. No shared toothbrushes. No photos on the walls of a life built on half-truths. No pretending to be someone worth choosing. That evening, I turned off my phone. Not because I expected her to call. Honestly, I didn't think she'd even notice right away, but because I didn't want to be reachable. I didn't want her voice in my pocket. I wanted to breathe without her shadow hovering. Turns out, I didn't have to wait long. At 10:14 p.m., I turned the phone back on, just for a second. 6 missed calls. 3 voicemails. All from Mira. The first one was short. Hey. Where are you? The second was tighter, her voice clipped. You didn't tell me you were going out. You could have at least said something. The third one. It sounded different. Raw. Ellery. Seriously, what the hell is going on? You're not answering. Your stuff is gone. You didn't even. She cut herself off. I heard her breathing. Then silence. I didn't listen to the rest. She hadn't called me by my name in months. Not like that. Not with that edge of vulnerability. It should have meant something, maybe. But instead, it felt like a trick of memory. Like hearing an old song you don't love anymore. At midnight, I got a text. Just 2 words. You left. No question mark. No accusation. Just a quiet sentence she never thought I was capable of writing into reality. She still didn't know where I'd gone. She had no idea how long I'd been planning it. And most importantly, she didn't know the truth. She didn't lose me when I walked out. She lost me the day she spoke through that vent. And now she was just beginning to feel what I'd been carrying for years. Absence, silence, and a home full of memories that no longer had a pulse. 3 days after I vanished, my phone buzzed with a number I didn't recognize. I almost let it ring out, but something made me answer. Maybe it was curiosity. Maybe I just wanted to hear someone else's voice that didn't sound like hers. Ellery, a woman said, confused. Wait, oh no. I didn't mean to call you. I didn't say anything. I knew the voice. Eloise, Myra's friend. The same one she was venting to that day through the air vent. The one who laughed when Mira said she'd never pick me again. I was about to hang up when she said, wait, please. I need to say something. You don't have to talk. Just listen. I stayed silent. She took a deep breath and continued. She's a mess. I don't even know if you care anymore. But she didn't think you'd actually leave. None of us did. She kept saying you were too soft, too wrapped up in her. But now she's unraveling. She keeps checking the door like you might come back. I felt nothing. No warmth. No flicker of pride. Just exhaustion. She's been telling everyone you abandoned her. Eloise went on, voice quieter now. But I told her she's not innocent either. I mean, she lied to Dean. She told him you were separated already, that she was staying just to wrap things up. I didn't flinch at the name. Dean. Finally, a name to pin the betrayal on. But what caught me was the next part. She didn't tell you, did she, that she and Dean were planning to move in together? I stood up slowly, pacing my empty apartment. She told him she had to ease you out slowly, Eloise said. God, Ellery. I think she was just trying to time it so she could come out clean. Look like the victim. Now that hit me. Not the affair itself. I'd already grieved that. But the idea that she'd already framed me as the one who left her in ruins, while she quietly coordinated her next relationship like a business merger. Eloise paused. I shouldn't have called. I'm sorry. I just thought. Maybe you deserve to know the whole story. Click. I didn't call back. I didn't text. But my hands were shaking, not from heartbreak, but from something worse. Clarity. She was already rewriting the script, making me the villain, making herself the broken wife who gave too much and got too little. The woman left behind. But the truth? She was never left behind. She was simply left by a man she thought would never have the strength to go. And now I knew. The next time she reached for sympathy, for backup, for another carefully crafted lie, I'd be there. Not to argue, not to fight, but to show everyone what really happened. Because I didn't just disappear. I escaped. It was a full 2 weeks before I saw her again. Not through a message, not through a voicemail, not even on social media. I'd scrubbed myself clean from all of that. No, Mira showed up the old-fashioned way, unannounced. Desperate. I was in my new apartment, early Sunday morning, folding laundry while a pot of coffee brewed. There was a knock. Firm, fast, familiar. My gut already knew. When I opened the peephole, there she was, hair messy, eyes red, jacket half-zipped like she'd rushed just to beat the voice in her head telling her not to come. For a second, I almost forgot everything. Almost. She didn't know I was watching her from the other side of the door. She stood there, breathing hard like she'd run up the stairs. Clutched something in her hand. A photo, I think. Maybe our wedding picture. Her knuckles were white around it. Then came the whisper. "Ellery, please. Just talk to me." She waited. I didn't move. Another knock. Louder this time. "I was wrong," she said. I didn't mean the things I said. I was stupid and scared, and I thought you'd never leave. But when you did, everything fell apart. I need you. Please." Still, I stayed silent. She leaned her forehead against the door like it was too heavy to hold herself up. "Dean's gone. He wanted the fantasy, not the mess. He disappeared the second I stopped smiling." I almost smiled at the irony. She kept going. "You were always there. You gave everything. I see that now. I don't even know how to start fixing this, but I'll do anything. Just open the door." But I didn't. Not out of cruelty. Not revenge. Out of peace. Because for the first time in years, I didn't feel small. I didn't feel like the breakable man she once called safe, predictable, forgettable. I felt free. And that silence she was standing in? That was the same silence I drowned in for years. Let her stand in it a little longer. Eventually, her sobs faded. Her footsteps backed away, and the building fell quiet again. I poured my coffee, sat on my balcony, and watched the sun rise through a city that didn't carry her name. I felt no need to chase her. No need to answer questions or hear more excuses. I had already answered the most important question. Would I choose her again? No, but I finally chose myself. And that was the first real choice I'd made in a long, long time.